What's going on, everybody? It's we guess we call this GoldBoys live. I don't really do this. Obviously, Will Hill is not here. But as always, our sponsors, Hall of Fame Bets, Pickett Sports, and Sleeper Picks. We have Matkafee and we have Josh here. I think I did pretty well for a guy this is my first Friday show ever for GoldBoys because I told them Fridays are the one day I can't work, and here I am. Eventually, they got me to cave in.
Yeah, that was great. I know the feeling. You're just like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here. Go. Oh wait, I'm the one that's supposed to do it. All right, cool. They jumped in.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed
Well,
to say
usually
again?
Will Hill just kind of,
I
he
know,
just takes
I
the
know.
reins.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's not a Friday guy.
so how are you guys?
Doing good, man. Good to see you guys. Excited for a nice baseball slate and a big soccer slate this weekend as well. Preseason football in full swing. We're so close, you can almost touch it. But yeah,
Three
just
three
excited.
weeks away. 3 weeks
Yeah,
away.
UFC card. I don't. You guys mess with UFC at all?
I
It's not
haven't.
me. It's
I
not
Yeah,
me.
dabbled in it.
I didn't think so,
Yeah.
but we got a great card in Boston this week. So like just a loaded sports weekend.
I think we talked about a lot on different shows, even the ones we did for
Mhm.
NBA with us or this, that, the other. There's so many sports out there that I think it's also a nice thing where even if you like certain aspects of sports, this, that, the other. Like I love college football. I don't cap it at all. I think you just have to limit, what you can quote unquote specialize in. So definitely don't touch much of that. But a lot of baseball today, and I think you mentioned how football's coming back. Will yesterday was talking about the how do you not go over 34.5 points or whatever that the line was in the game yesterday for Eagles Browns. And after my round of golf, I was watching the bar with a friend. Live over under was like 27.5. And like I just had that in my memory of Will saying that, and I live bet the over. So it was a nice little extra unit for the day. So maybe these shows can be helpful for people.
You had a good day yesterday, didn't you? Because you
Yeah,
had
I
some
mean,
snow stuff. You
so
played
Matt,
fucking golf. You just came back from vacation. Not a
yeah,
bad
it
life,
was.
bro.
I'm about to say. I mean, there's a course near us that doesn't really allow. Like, they don't really care about the rules as much. So it's like you can pay $35 for. You pay for 9. You play until they kick you out around 8. So we got like 15 goals and $35. It's not a bad gig, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think yes, we had some good days in terms of what the props we talked about. Even Rich Hill went under and outs despite being pulled at the 56 pitches we talked about in the show. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but there's a lot of games on today, including some day games. We'll be happy about that because we never have day games. Do you guys have any
Two of
props
them.
or any plays in these slates that you're like desperate to talk about? Like I don't know if you have anything locked in yet.
I
Josh, you
like
want to go first?
yeah, because I actually saw what you posted in Discord, Brian, about the Cubs, and you're going with the Royals runs, and I like that because I'm also fading Tyone's strikeouts. I'm going under
Oh,
6
okay.
in this one, yeah, and I think he's not going to be good for 6. I think he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that very much at all. I think like 5 of his last 6 he's gone under that. I know he's had some nice starts, but it hasn't been through Ks. So fading his strikeouts, I think it's actually maybe a little safer. But to your point about the Royals, I was bringing this up on the show yesterday. You brought up their WRC plus being really good against righties. I would also add that they have the number 1 OPS in
Yeah.
baseball since July 15th against right-handed pitching. I just smile every time I think about it, and it is like heavily related to Bobby Witt. So there's a pretty nice correlation there between having a ton of speed and a guy on base all the time, and then their offense actually being pretty good at this point. Plus, they got some guys back that were hurt for a bit, including like Salvador Perez was hurt a bit as well, so he's been hitting for them. And yeah, I like the Royals in that one, and I like Tyone to not get his Ks.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of ways you can play this. I was actually looking at the 8.5 earlier. Didn't love the splits for the Cubs. And Crab Rangoon or whatever his name is has been really good for the Royals since being a starter. But I
It
think
looks like Eli, and we got another Eli lookalike.
yeah, there's too many that look like Eli. But I
Yeah,
don't know
too
if
many
you
dudes to
saw
digest.
the lineup today too is like I know you kind of know what you're gonna get with most lineups, but the Royals lineup today: Garcia, Witt, Massey, Perez, and then they still. I mean, Velasquez has been great. Like their whole offense. It's so weird to say you're gonna back the Royals, but yeah, they have just been hitting the piss out of the ball, and I think they keep making good contact. I mean, Talion had these great starts. Like he strung like 4 or 5 together, or like quality starts. And then last game against the Blue Jays, his true colors kind of came out. He allowed 8 runs in 3 innings, and I'm just gonna ride the hot hand of the Royals. We kind of mentioned a little bit. The last 30 days, they've just been hitting righties all over. I actually kind of like what do you call it? The first five is 1.5 for them. I looked at that, but I also we kind of mentioned this on the show. They have these late game heroics as of late, where they're just like this Pepsi team where they've been down this like in the 2 runs in the ninth, they somehow scored 3 runs. Like they just been really resilient. That asking for 4 runs in a full 9 innings because they are the road team. So no matter what, you get 9 innings. I just
Yeah.
think it's one of those games where I think 3.5 at -110 is just a little too short. So I played the over for the Royals in the first game over 3.5 runs.
Yeah, I was looking at that 8.5, and I'm like, okay, day game, weather's nice, the wind's not crazy, like make
The
it make
win
sense.
a negative factor. That's what I like to say because sometimes in
Yeah,
Wrigley it
I
can
mean,
be negative or positive. It's kind of neutral today.
yeah, I'm like, who's got boots on the ground? Like, go outside. I need to know is how the flag's blowing. Like, and it's yeah, it is like you said, neutral at worst. And a day game, like I think they're looking at like the Royals, like their road record is so bad, and
They don't score on the
I
road. Yeah, I looked
yeah,
at that too. Where I think that's kind of where you get the line baked into being so low.
yeah.
But they've been a different team as of late than they were, the first three
Mhm.
months.
Yeah, for sure. I like what they do. I've watched a lot of Royals games. I know that's kind of sick to say out loud and admit to people, but like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
pass the baton. You know what I mean? They're not going up there with this hero mentality of trying to blast something. They're just taking what is given. A lot of base hits and good base running for the
Good
most
base running, I would say.
part.
Smart base running, which is
They,
huge.
they made they made a couple mistakes in the last game. I think they got a little aggressive, but at the same time, it's the Royals. Why not be aggressive? If you're going to
You got
err
nothing
on
to lose.
variance, yeah. You're down. You're what, like 400 games out of first place, so like you might as well just
450, yeah.
yeah, 450. Sorry, but yeah,
Yeah.
I put together a same game parlay, and it's hits based. I liked what you said. You mentioned Bobby Witt. We mentioned Melendez. Massey. I like what he's been doing, especially when he's been moved up to the order here. Those are my three guys that I had to get a hit off Talion, and then on the Cubs side, I went Horner, Bellinger, and Dansby Swanson to all get a base hit. So 6 guys to get a hit, and then I took Cubs first 5 plus 3.5, and then Cubs plus 3.5 full game, and then did some negative correlation because it just screws up the same game parlay if you take the max alt under. So I went all the
Yeah.
way up to like 14.5 and took that under, which really it stacks higher than it should. It's not as broken as it used to be a few years ago, but you can still mess around with the way that those same game parlays get calculated and get some boosts that are to your advantage. And hey, if it's looking like the game's going to go over 14.5 and I got everything else covered, I guess it's time to hedge. But for me, I think it's a fun game. I don't mind riding the Cubs during day games. I feel like the
Yeah.
crowd's just into it. I don't know if they're ever a $2 favorite, but like to me, I just wanted some action and a standalone game, so I put that all together.
No, yeah, I think it's a fun game, and also you kind of mentioned day games, ball carrying. I don't know if you guys think about this as much as it does, but I did note in my write up in the GoldBoys Discord that Talion has an ERA of like 9 and 8 starts in the day game. So I don't know if that like sometimes I don't like to make that as like a whole thing in terms of splits, but I do think there's a little bit of weight that some people are just inherently better at certain times, or they have different I don't know if it's
Routine and
the
stuff, yeah,
routine or what it
especially
is, but yeah, so there should be some. I was actually debating doing the over 8.5 in this game as well, and I might do like a same game parlay with a free bet and have that in there. So I do like that.
I think
yeah,
there's something to that. I think they can get to Reagan's. They've been crushing righties too, and I mean, but with Reagan's, like he had a couple of really nice starts. Actually, I do think there's a little bit of people like having a few more looks at him right now. He struggled last year on the Rangers. Like I would be, he's somewhat of like a random generator of quality pitching. But I would still like err on the side of him not having a good day today. And the
Yeah.
Royals just not striking out too. I just want to reiterate, like they have the best K percentage against righties in the last 2 months as well. So
yeah. What do you
Yeah.
guys make of Sal Perez playing first base? Like he's struggling over there. I think
yeah,
That to me,
Not everyone can be Bryce Harper and make that transition
right. Yeah,
seem
you got to
easier.
DH Perez if you're gonna not throw him behind the plate. Like I don't know. The couple times I've seen him, he just is. He doesn't know how to move. He's not quick over to first
Yeah.
base. Like those exchanges with like the pitcher on the ground, they're just kind of clunky right now. And
They've been doing that a lot with him too, and I think one of those things where obviously everyone in baseball knows more than me in terms of being an
Mhm.
NFL scout. I mean, NFL, MLB scout, or like coach or manager,
right,
whatever you want to call it. But it's one of those things where I feel like sometimes where if you have a DH logjam, people think, oh, we can just put him at first, but you still have to be really athletic to play that position. Like it's not.
absolutely.
It's not kind of like, I mean, in little league it works out. Just put the bigger kids on first and whatever. But yeah, you really have to
Dude,
be able to play that
that's
sport.
that's literally a line in Moneyball when Billy Bean was
Yeah,
trying to convince Scott Hatterberg to play first base,
Chris
and he's
Pratt.
like, "Yeah," he's like, "It's not that hard." And then he turns around to Washington. He's like, "Tell him, Ron, it's not that hard to play first base." He's like, "It's very
It's very hard. Yeah.
hard."
Nah, don't make me watch that movie again because I have this thing where if
So
I
good.
if it gets on my head, I have a few movies I always
You're
watch.
gonna
It's
watch it.
Semi-Pro, that Hustle with Adam Sandler. There's a few movies that if it gets in my head, I watch them like 60 times.
Also, it's good.
Yeah, so we covered that game really well. Look at the
Yeah, we
latest
sure
thing.
did.
Do you guys have any other plays you've locked in? Because I have two plays I'm looking at, but I haven't locked them in yet because I just want to wait for lineups. And I've been doing that a little bit more recently. Is being more patient with how I play certain things and make sure it's a favorable which is one thing because the last thing you want is to be screwed by someone with like the zone of
Hernandez.
like yeah like someone with the zone that's like 40 feet wide and also just knowing some of the lineups. But today should be pretty good with lineups because for most people it was a travel day off yesterday, so there shouldn't be any funky lineups. But do you guys have any other plays you locked in for the MLB slate?
I do. Do
Yeah,
you
go
want to
ahead,
go
Josh.
first? Um, yeah. So I'm starting with I'm just going with the Twins run line against the lowly Pirates and Pablo Lopez. Just a huge pitching discrepancy here. We got Paulo Lopez and Andre Jackson. Andre Jackson with his 4.7 ERA. He's given up 6 homers here in his last 26 innings. He can't really get past the fourth. So I think that he's going to get kind of beat up there by a few of the Minnesota bats. They've been better. Let me put it that way. They're still striking out. You can still strike them out pretty easily, but they have been getting better against righties, up to like 11th WRC plus and batting average. So it's getting around the bases a bit more. And then for Pablo Lopez, like I was gushing about him last time, and then he got his Ks, which was really nice. It's still really high. I think it's worth it. I mean, like I like the run line. I do think it's worth it to take 7 Ks and a win for the Twins, but it's only minus 130, which is crazy for a player performance level. I feel like to take it with 7 Ks like that, that's high. You could take it with 6 Ks, which feels like a pretty much a lock because he's done that pretty much every time in his last 11 games. He's gotten 7 in 9 of his last 11 as well. So I mean, the Pirates, they hit they're awful against the slider, worst team against the slider on the season, and that's really what he's implemented, which is awesome because he used to just really throw some movement on his cutter and a changeup to go with that fastball. And now he's got a slider in there. He's throwing like 21% of the time. So I was just I got deep into that game, as you tell. So I still feel good about his Ks and the player performance level. And then most of it, I'm just putting on Minnesota's run line here.
I like
Oh,
that. I'm gonna root against you only because I'm still rooting somehow, some way for the
For the
Guardians to close that
Guardians,
gap.
God, you're
Yeah.
sick. You are sick.
are you
No, but
holding on
like
to a
here's the
future or
thing.
something?
I have a future of it's like
Yeah.
0.2 units for the Orioles and the Guardians to both win the divisions. And Orioles was like the hardest one of the two, and they're the ones that are looking really good. But
I
the
know.
yeah, the Guardians have
You
really been
should have
slipping.
thrown you should have thrown the Dodgers in when you did that. I feel like it was still at like minus 250 for the Dodgers to win the West when you were doing that. And it was like, that's pretty good right there, but
Yeah,
whatever.
there's nothing worse than having a future midway through the season, and then like you're like, oh, this is good value, and then they go on like a 4 game losing streak the time after you do it, and you're like, ah, shit,
That was
may,
not good value.
maybe I should have waited a week, but
We just
no,
did,
they
yeah.
should be set up well today. Also, fun fact: the Pirates have been so I forget. You say lowly? I don't even remember the word to
Yeah.
describe it. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
just lowly.
The over has gone. The over in the Pirates games have gone over 8 of his last 10 games. So there's like maybe some value there just to bet team totals against them because their pitching staff has just
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
uh
Andre Jackson's back.
bad. bad good is bad a good word.
Say
So
little.
I do think there's some value there. You can probably just do that because we talked about it before that they have nothing to play for anymore. So some of these younger starters are just getting these massive leashes, even if they're allowing hit after hit, fourth inning or fifth inning, where a competing team with a playoff spot in mind might be quick to pull them, but they don't really have any reason to do that.
Yep, they're letting everybody go.
Yeah. And then did
Yeah,
you
I'm
have
looking
anything
at.
else?
Yeah, I was looking at the Sox and the Yankees.
The battle of
I
mid.
just feel like this game could fly over for a multitude of reasons. One, the Red Sox bats just like exploded in Washington. Now, Yankees have been a little bit down, but you look at those conditions. The wind is gusting like 15, 20 miles an hour to right field. We already know how that stadium plays. There's so many power hitters up and down this lineup. Neither of the pitchers really get me too excited. Especially Brito. I think that the Sox could have some fun. And to me, 9 looks like a number that's a little low. I think this game could sail over 9 runs, but I don't know. Maybe there's something. I thought the same thing with this Cubs and Royals. Like 8.5. I'm like, why is it? Why make that make sense to me? But yeah, I'm looking at that. A couple different things, player prop wise. But again, I'm waiting for lineups before I attack anything. I think the Braves could really get to Cobb. And again, another nice weather. It's August in Atlanta, so it's going to be hot. The ball will be flying. Go ahead.
I have a question. I have a question more than anything because you can still get plus money on Sandy Alcantara K's, but you have to get him to strike out the Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's gonna be one of those ones where it's less about the strikeouts. It's more of how long can you last before that team makes some really solid contact.
Yeah, that's the question. He's back though, dude. Like he's
been ridiculous the last few starts.
And he's really good righty. But yeah, once again, lineups like we're talking about Freddie Freeman in there already got scared.
I'm sure the Dodgers will throw Muncy and Hayward.
Right, they're gonna throw everyone at him.
Peralta, like all the lefties are gonna be in there.
Yeah. And that stuff really does matter because if you watched the show yesterday, one of the plays I ended up going a little too heavy on, which we were in the group chat. You could tell we went heavy on it because we all faded Chris Sale, and every little thing in our group chat was just everyone like flipping out. I was like, we just lost like our firstborn child because everyone had a little too much money on it. But same thing, Washington Nationals. Yesterday, I waited until I saw the lineup. They played 9 righties in there, which was just. That kind of stuff can really hurt a pitcher's with like different like with Jurassic splits.
I was on the money line. I was on the Washington money line yesterday. They're done.
Yeah, I like that.
Fenway. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we
kind of
mentioned it.
It takes stones when you're like you're like, okay.
I thought about the reverse too. I thought about the reverse run line and I was like, I'll just take the money line. I was like, there's only like plus 130 for the Nats on the road, but
investing in Patrick Corbin. I mean, you got stones when you're like.
I know. Right. I was like, hey man, I just hope
that game was
more runs than he gives up.
that game was like a straight out of a book of like 2019. It was Chris Sale and Corbin looking like studs for the longest time.
And it was 9-1 going into like the 6th or 7th or something, and then it ended at 10-7. I just like turned it off. I was like, if I lose, I lose. I'm not watching this anymore. They're just crushing him, and now.
I think Matt mentioned a little bit. He mentioned waiting for lineups, but I know he mentioned a little bit on the Braves, and I actually think there's value on Strider has been off his last 2 starts, but we always say this in the show. For some reason, I always write off his starts where he plays bad against the Mets because since like 28, since like last year, because he's only been in for 2 years, that's like the one team he can never pitch against. I don't know what it is. Yeah. He's got one kryptonite. It's the Mets. I think there's value. It's minus 110 on draft. I haven't played it, but 8 strikeouts and Braves to score 3 runs. That I think it's a way to play like a player performance double without needing them to win per se. If he does get hit around, but this Giants team, I mean, 24.5% strikeout rate against righties on the season. There's so many whiffs in that lineup. That I think 8 is pretty fun because up until his last 2 starts, 8 is a number for Strider that he's the only guy in the league I feel comfortable laying 8 with. He has 8 or more strikeouts in 20 of his 24 starts. Like, dude, no one else will have that much confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it got up to like it was 9.5, 10.5 for a while. For
Yeah.
like when he was going 10 plus for those 4 or 5 game stretch. Like
And
that
I
was
think it's worth
nasty. So now
noting.
you get it all the way down. Yeah.
I think that's worth noting. He only had 6 strikeouts last outing, but he went 7 innings. His last 5 starts, he's gone 6 or more, and the last 3 of his 4 starts, he's gone into the 7th. That's big too, because his big things he's never gotten that luxury of pitching past the 6th, but he's been a little
Yeah.
bit more efficient. So I think there's some fun to be
Yeah.
had in that 8 strikeouts and like over 2.5.
I think it's
And
a good moment. I was
I'll
gonna
share
say real
this
quick because
because
I before you go into a different bet, like I have him in a parlay with Andrew Heaney to go under his Ks actually. Which I mean I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I just want to mention I took Strider for 8 plus as well to parlay with
I
Okay.
like
Andrew
that.
Heaney
Look at
6 under
you.
So
6.
we've got one leg for sure with our pitching ninja boost. We're going to come up with a
Yeah.
live parlay. So
Yeah.
Strider 8. I want to
So
submit in my thing because I'm with you guys. You all sold me. What if we take an alt run total run and we go over 8.5 in Sox Yanks? Is that something you guys can get behind, or
I could.
you want to? Okay,
I can get
all right.
behind that.
You were just talking about that one that game specifically, right, Matt?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
over 8.5 in Sox Yanks. We pair it with Strider 8Ks. Right now, that's plus 150. We just need one more leg, I think, to be our bonus eligible. So, what else do we
Yeah.
like? Is
Does it
there?
have to be like minus 200 or better? Is that part of it?
Probably.
Let
Yeah.
me double check the parameters real
Honestly,
quick.
I would hop on Talion under 5.5 with my guy Josh. I actually liked that
I
angle
like it.
there.
Yeah.
I could do you guys one better. I just put this in the Discord because I forgot the game was at 220. I haven't been doing these as much, but I think on a slate like today, it's fun to do for the DraftKings 50% boost. So the one I went with today, it's boosted to plus 994, so almost 10-1. I took the Strider 8 strikeouts, Braves 3 runs as one leg. Cole, I'm gonna call him Crapper and Goon for the Royals. I took him 5 strikeouts and the Royals to score 4 runs. So kind of harping on our guy Ryan Props has Rangoon. He has him. Oh, he has Reagan over. What is it? 5.5. So take the alt 5, and I paired it with the over 3.5 for the Royals total runs. And then I took my guy Michael Lorenzen over 17.5 outs against the Nationals, who just don't take many pitches. I mean, my thing is $25 wins you like 250. It's like 10-1. I like that look a lot with the 50% boost.
Wow.
And
Can I ask you something, Brian? So Lorenzen, as we know, he threw the no, and I know everybody falls somewhere on the do you fade the guy coming off of like his best game ever, when people are maybe looking to jump in on him now that they know who he is and all that. Do you think his lines might be, you're not getting value on him, or do you think there's anything to like the whole notion of fading a guy after his like best performance?
I can see it. The one thing I will say, and the one reason I'm totally okay. First off, it's only a parlay as well, which is nice. But I think 17.5 outs. It's minus 180. It's a good parlay piece. I think a lot. And my thing is, yes, he threw 124 pitches, and I can understand why people want to fade that no hitter, this that. But the Phillies 6-man rotation. I mean, he hasn't pitched since the 9th. He got an extra 2 days of rest. So I think if he was making a regular start, 5 days of rest, I probably wouldn't even touch anything with him. But the fact that they have the travel day yesterday and they have the 6-man rotation, the fact he gets 2 extra days rest, I think is going to be a lot more, beneficial for a guy coming off 124 pitches.
And I like the Nationals lineup better against lefties than I do. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I usually
Yeah.
back him against lefties, fade him against righties. I mean, they're kind of that point. And if you learned yesterday, I backed them against a lefty with like Chris Sale. Same thing. We were all stressed about the outs because sure they're making some hard contact, but they don't take pitches.
Right.
They just kind of like even their innings that have like 2 doubles and it was like an 8-pitch inning, and it's like how the hell is that even possible? So if you're trying to back the outs, I mean, they have the league lowest average in pitches per at bat at 3.77. So even if you get hit around a little bit, they just don't take enough pitches to really make you work out there.
yeah, I'm seeing Lorenzen is it's 18.5
Is it
plus 112.
on DraftKings?
Oh, you said DraftKings. Okay, FanDuel's got it at 18.5, and I don't think they.
Let me check on DraftKings though, because I really hope I didn't put it out there and they changed the line. I don't think they did. No,
They
yeah,
don't
we're
let you
good.
do all outs on
You don't
FanDuel.
understand, Matt.
So,
If they let me do all outs or all strikeouts, like as freely as you could, I swear, like
yeah.
as easy as say, I think I would be a much more successful MLB better because there is times where you look at stuff and even though the juice would be horrid, I think it would be like a dangerous game, and that's why they don't offer it. You can't get mad at that. But
Right.
those are the 3 spots on the slate I'm going to talk about. I don't know if you guys had anything else before, like we kind of move on. Do you have any other bets you placed or you have circled on your radar today?
I just for MLB, we got to get that third leg. What's that? What you say the under Tyon strikeouts? Is
I
that
think
the one?
Tyon's nice. Yeah, I think it's a
Okay.
good one.
Yeah.
I
All
did
right. Do we have
play
time to get that out and
the
get
part
people?
the yeah, just to be clear, the parlay I hit with Strider was Strider A plus Heaney under 6 for the Rangers there in that game where I just took it real quick because Milwaukee's been a lot better against lefties after they made a few moves as well to you guys like Kana. They've got a few more slap hitters, a few more guys that are getting on base and not striking out nearly as much as they were before they made those moves. So fourth lowest K percentage in August versus lefties. Their WRC plus in the last 3 weeks is up to like top 10, which it was bottom 5, let's say at best, for a while. They had like a 91 WRC plus for a long time there against lefties for most of the season, and it's still really bad. But I'm just looking at the smaller sample size where they've had a slightly different lineup in there. Heaney hasn't gotten 6 Ks in 6 of his last 7 starts, so there's some value to going
I
under on
like
him. It's
that.
like minus 106. So minus 106 was like, yeah, I'm taking that close to even money.
I like that.
But yeah, we can. Did you guys want to talk about the Super Bowl stuff, or did you guys talk about that yesterday?
Yeah, I'm down to do the Super Bowl stuff.
So what's this topic of conversation here?
You know about the FanDuel, right?
Go ahead.
Oh yes, we brought it up. So I don't. Yeah, so we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I'm more than welcome to talk about it a little bit here.
Okay, I'll just explain it real quick, if that's cool.
Yeah, go for it.
Sweet. Yeah. So basically, on FanDuel, I mean, we all Will brought it up yesterday on our show, and I really like the promo here that they have on FanDuel, which is basically pick a Super Bowl winner. It has to be during the preseason, so you can't do it once the season starts. But there's a bet if you bet on a Super Bowl winner, then every game that team wins throughout the season, you get $50 in bonus bets, right? And that'll be up to $500. So if a team, you basically for a team that you are positive can win 10 games this season, so you get yourself a guaranteed $500 back in bonus bets just for putting up to $50 or more, I believe, on the Super Bowl winner. So yeah, I would say if you want to put the $500 on the Super Bowl winner, then you're also guaranteeing yourself if they're good enough for 10 wins and they don't win, you still get the 500 back in bonus bets. But obviously that's up to you. The Super Bowl bet, I believe, can be what you want it to be in terms of the amount. But yeah, at this point, I think it just makes sense to kind of talk about which team you think makes sense through the lens of I want to make sure they get the 10 wins, and then I also would like them to have decent odds on the Super Bowl. So and also have a legitimate chance at it, obviously. And if you get 10 wins, I would say you're probably in the category of having a legit shot, right? So it all correlates.
You would hope that
one would, unless you're the New York Giants, and then all you need is like 8 wins, and you can win whatever you want. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I just liked it too because I do think the Niners were a really good pick, and I mean, Will was kind of against that one because of the sort of Super Bowl mystery, if you will. But I mean, Brock Purdy is going to be the starter. He's not been playing in the preseason for that reason. He's getting like 80% of the first team snaps in practice, which I know just from following some guys on the Niners. I watched a lot of them last year. I think he's the real deal for them. I think he's in a system that's going to set him up for success once again. But I think he's actually even not just a system quarterback. If you look at some of the throws that he makes, Will and I also made the point that he had some mistakes last year that cost him some interceptions. But I'm not worried about that with the freaking weapons on that team that Kyle Shanahan is putting at his disposal, right? So they were 10-1 on DraftKings. I wanted to look them up real quick they're 10-1 on FanDuel as well, so you can still get them 10-1 there. That division is awful. I'm lower on the Rams than most people, I think. At least some people who are high on them. I don't want to say most people, but I'm particularly low, so it feels like a good all-around bet.
Yeah, I think with this promo, one of the things is too is I mentioned it yesterday on the show, but I think the way I like to do it a lot is it's not as simple as like talking about EV or this that, but I do like to try to find prices that are the same or better on FanDuel. Two teams that I think were interesting were the Eagles and the Jets, solely because Eagles are 8-1 compared to 6-1 on most marketplaces, and then the Jets are 18-1, and the market is usually like 16.5. So it's not a big jump there, but I do think it is kind of interesting to find those spots where a lot of times FanDuel offers these promos and it's like Dinger Tuesday and it's like, oh, Couture is plus 200, it's plus 280 on everybody else. And it's like, well, they just kind of slack these prices because of the promo. So I think sometimes they water down some of their prices with these promos, but you can find the outliers that have a little bit better pricing on.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you basically took one of my favorite talking points of that promo was I bet the Eagles because of, yes, I believe their ceiling is they can win the Super Bowl, but also what edged them out over some other contenders in my mind was the fact that, yes, FanDuel is the high watermark in the marketplace for their future. So not only are you getting a plus EV bet with the Eagles because you think, hey, this is a free roll, and barring a Hurts injury, and even I looked at it with like, if Hurts goes down, they have a top tier backup in Marcus Mariota. I'm not saying there won't be a drop off, but I think they can at least win 10 games with him. I don't think they win the Super Bowl without Hurts, but I think that that's a team that's loaded and should get you to a free roll at minimum. You should max out your bets, and then yes, once we get to this, if we're lucky enough to get to the NFC Championship game, you could start making other positions and make some money off of that future. But I would love to have an NFC team because AFC, gosh, we all know how loaded it is. Like there's 9 teams favored to make the playoffs in the AFC. There's only 7 slots. How is that possible? There's just so many good quarterbacks and good teams in the AFC. I think taking a team from that side, your path to cashing the bet ultimately is so much more difficult than taking a Niners, like you said, Josh, or an Eagles, like Brian said. And ultimately, I went with the Eagles. And, I was close. It came down to Niners, Eagles. I went Eagles because at the end of the day, I think they are just a smidge better. But
so to that point,
I don't think
just on that point, Matt, what's interesting is like one of the things that really put me over the edge for the Niners was thinking back to the NFC Championship game and going, dude, even after Purdy went down, right, and they went with, was it Josh Johnson, right, or some Josh Johnson type, right, a career backup who's a speedster, but like,
and then he got hurt.
And then he got hurt. But even when he was in the game, I was like,
right,
I don't know, they still got a shot. I was like, with Purdy, I was like, they are like, to me, like more than a field goal favorites without Purdy, with Purdy rather. And I just, when I looked at 10-1, I was like, I know that if I'm, it's next January and I'm going into the NFC Championship game with a ticket of 10-1 for the Niners to win it, and I'll probably hit them 5-1 to win the NFC as well, just on the side. I'm gonna really like having a 5-1 ticket where in a situation I think they'll be favored come that game. But that's obviously so much that can happen, man. Brock Purdy has to stay healthy, or we're looking at Sam Darnold, which I'd rather have Marcus Mariota probably at that point, right? So,
I mean, you said something that caught my interest. Do you think that the Niners would be favored over the Eagles in the NFC Championship game?
That's what I'm.
I think
I do.
I think this sounds. I think it's close. I think it'd be like within 2 points. I think it would also just matter. Like this sounds stupid, but it's gonna be how they're playing when that happens. Like if you were to give it to me right now, I think the Eagles would probably be like -1.5. But
before you say that, Brian, like who's at home? Because we all know it's 2.5 points in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. That's I think it's gonna be close. Yeah.
Run it back.
I think if the Eagles are home, I think they're 3.5.
But that's my point.
I think if it's in San Francisco, Eagles are still favored, but it'll be a 1.
Okay, so that's fair. But the thing is like the Eagles have probably the hardest schedule. I mean, it's in the top 5 hardest schedules.
Yeah.
And you're talking about playing the Cardinals twice, the Seahawks twice, which in Seattle.
Yeah, but the question here, Josh, was who's favorite in the championship game.
Yeah, but who's at home is relevant, and I think.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I just think the Niners' home field is not what it used to be.
I'm also
Levi's. That's true.
I try to be as unbiased as possible when it comes to sports, and obviously you all know I'm the Phillies guy, but as unbiased as possible. It's the other thing is this Eagles team is objectively better than it was last year. Like at least on paper coming to the season, like in terms of talent in their roster. I mean, they had a great draft. It'll be interesting to see how they end up doing it. But
So real quick, are none of us taking anybody from the AFC because it's
I don't
loaded,
think
even
there's.
though
I don't like Matt kind of mentioned it. I think it's too top heavy where I feel like it's
Right.
going to be harder to get your money's worth.
Well, what's
And
interesting
I
is
mean, if you take the Chiefs right now at 6 or 6.5 to 1, yes, you're guaranteed, unless Mahomes gets hurt, but you're guaranteed to win 10 games and to have a free roll. But what's the Chiefs' price going to be in January? It's probably going to be 500. You know what I mean? It's going to be plus 500 or maybe plus 450 or something like that to win. And so you're not there's you can make a Chiefs future bet once the playoffs start, and you already know you haven't had to assume the risk of Mahomes, health all season. And then it's just a small discount. And for me, say they get there, great. I would be happy to hedge on the Chiefs money. If we get a run back on the Super Bowl, I'll just come in, bet the Chiefs, and I got my Eagles over here at 8 to 1, and I'll just sit back and have a great Super Bowl. But you know what I mean? It's just one of those. Yeah, for me, AFC is too difficult to navigate. The Rodgers and the Jets factor, like if they get it all right in year one, I would be surprised. But they're going to be good. We know the Bengals will be good.
Yeah.
We think the Chargers and the Browns and like these next tier teams are going to be bubbling up and challenging. But it's tough. I mean,
no, you're right. I was asking the question to set you guys up to say all that, to be honest, because I agree with you entirely.
Yeah. I also think to kind of like put a pin in the discussion so we don't go too long on air is it's not fun, and I know some people won't like this, but I mentioned it yesterday to kind of end this discussion. I think the biggest thing with this promo is people will place $200 or $500, whatever your thing is, like compared to your account. That's a lot of money, and I think people play it and like, oh, it's a free roll, and then like throughout the season they get these 20s or these 50s bets, and like, holy shit, I want to put this on like 6 people to score a touchdown today, and then you end up losing it all. I think it's important that you have to use it as a free roll to get your money back.
So I was whether
it's bet conversion, which is the really sad way to do it, or just using it as like a way to convert bets or like at least hit something. I think you have to be smart with how you use your free bets, because it's not just like a free bet you were gifted. You have to remember if your unit say if your unit's $50, you put 500. That's 10 units.
Yeah.
Get that back. Like get at least some of that back, because then it's not a free roll anymore. You just lost $500. Like
I would say I hate that it's FanDuel, because they charge the most big on teasers, but doing long teasers is usually the safest bet in terms of conversion when you're trying to flip free bets into actual money. But you're getting charged $1.34 versus $1.20, and so FanDuel sucks for teasers, but that to me is your best chance to flip those into real money. But then you're giving away 34 cents every time you do it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the value too, dude, real quick, because I agree with it. I was thinking about that while we were talking. Once we started on this topic, I was thinking about it exactly what you're saying, which is the real value is like bet $50 on something that's anywhere from 6 to 10 to 15 to 1, and then get $500 in free bonus bets. Now you're talking about still cashing out, around $500 if it wins. You only spent $50, so you're still coming out with $450 no matter what in free bets. Like that's guaranteed free bets versus you going ahead and just betting $500 hoping to come back to even for this team to win 10 games. That's not where the value lies. So as much as FanDuel might not want to hear it, like I would fully agree that make sure you're not overblowing on just the Super Bowl bet, so that when you get the bonus bets back, you've increased the
I think my thing is, and I go to that sometimes, you place it now and then they're just randomly in your account on Monday. You have to like be disciplined to say, okay, maybe I'll bet this one guy to score a touchdown at plus 200 and convert this, rather than be like, oh my god, this is like, if I hit this, I can retire. Like it's cool in theory, but then you just end up down $500, and like that's I think you don't even realize it.
Wins, Brian, right?
Hey, well, I get that, but you know what I'm saying. I think people forget that they actually spend money.
What do you? Let me float this, and then we can move on if you guys are good with it.
Yeah, we're
What
good.
if you take those $50 and then you start buying Super Bowl futures for the other contenders? Like, hey, I
That's
bet the
another way to do
Eagles.
it.
I'm going to put 50 on the Niners in
Mm.
week 1. I'm going to put 50 on the
Yeah,
Chiefs
no,
week
I like
2.
that as
Or
well.
whoever the best value is that week, and you can
Yeah,
reassess
and I
each
mean,
week. That's a good call.
you end up with 11 futures of maybe the favorites, and you've kind of got a coverall. Hopefully, you've got plus. You're
And then
winning
the
money no
Panthers
matter
win it
what
all,
when the
and
Super
then
Bowl comes.
and then the Panthers win the Super Bowl, and then you have to
Yeah.
find
Yeah,
you have to
right.
find a really tall building. I think that's
Right.
the ending event here. But I think we kind
Good
of covered a
stuff.
lot. We
Yeah,
kind of
Sure.
talked a
good
little
stuff.
about the slate, and uh, to avoid taking everyone's time, we can go watch
Yeah,
some baseball. Do you guys wish just gonna end it there and sign out?
yeah, all good, man.
I think we did. I mean, I think it was a productive show. Big slate. We got to talk about. I got to cover this promo. It's nice to have Matt and Josh here. The first Friday show I think we've all done together, or first show we ever done together in general. But as always, we appreciate Hall of Fame Bets, Pickett Sports, and Sleeper Picks as our sponsors, and we appreciate everyone that tunes in. All three of you, and we hope you guys have a great weekend.